Hello everybody and happy Monday. I can't really draw, but I figured I wanted to do one of these since so many of you are new subscribers, and I figured I'd let you know a little bit about me and where I come from and what I'm doing and all that stuff. And okay, let's erase that. So first off, it was just my parents, and then I was born. Yay! Success. That's probably one of the most significant moments in my life. It has helped me do so many things, and I look back on it with extreme fondness. But that was quickly followed up by the birth of 2 younger brothers and a sister. When I was really little, my dad would read Green Eggs and Ham to me, but sometimes he was away on business trips, so I started picking up the book and just reciting it to myself. And then I had a revelation. The words that I knew in my head actually matched up with the letters in the book, and huzzah, I could read. My childhood was occupied by a few different things. I read a lot of books. I played around with the computer. My mom tells me that at one point I ran up and asked her hastily, who's Miss Doss? And just before I turned 5, I started playing the piano. I can't remember a time where I couldn't read music. It's always very confusing to me when I come across people who are learning it for the first time. Even as a kid, I used to live in my head a lot. I tried to come up with blueprints for a flying car at one point. Okay, I clearly can't draw blueprints. Let's move on. When I first went to school, I discovered how fun it is to make other people laugh. I would quote Disney movies and everything to the delightment of all of my classmates. But after the first grade, my parents decided it was probably better to homeschool me, so I had a bit of a different experience. This came down to a lot of reading and computers and music. We've already drawn that, though. Let's skip that. And I remember countless hours memorizing my multiplication tables, which apparently you young whippersnappers never had to do. What's up with that, jerks? When I don't remember how old, we moved from Illinois to Wisconsin, and it was decided that I would go back to public school. I wasn't entirely prepared for this, and I didn't necessarily make the best impression with my classmates. I showed up wearing a tie and with a briefcase. It wasn't the best. I still got laughs, but it wasn't anywhere near as much fun this time. I compensated by trying to get people to see me on my own terms. I tried to draw as much attention to myself as possible. Some people say I still do this, but I haven't a clue where they're getting that idea from. A few years later, we had a family meeting, and my mom and dad announced that they had some wonderful news. My siblings all got excited because they thought we were going to Disney World, but I had heard this talk before. Now, in retrospect, the fact that my mom was pregnant was wonderful news, but in my pubescent high school awkwardness stage, the whole idea that my parents were having a kid? It was terrifying to me. Truth be told, I'm still embarrassed that I received the news selfishly. And then there was more news. It was twins. Unfortunately, there were complications and my mom had to go into the hospital ridiculously early. One day I got a call from my dad who just said, you need to get everybody to the hospital now. So I had to run through my school address book and try and find someone who was able to drive us. Both Matt and James were rushed to the infant intensive care unit, and Matt was on a respirator for 45 minutes, and then he pulled it out and set off a whole bunch of alarms and scared a bunch of nurses, but, it was stifling. No one wants one of those things over your mouth. James, unfortunately, only lived for about a month, and it's really hard for me to talk about or even think about sometimes. The thing I vividly remember is just watching the monitors and watching all of the numbers as they tick up and down and up and down. I knew it was stupid, but I hated that monitor. I wanted to punch the glass and shatter it. The whole idea of some machine that just measures how alive we are seems so foreign and invasive to me. After James died, my life kind of spiraled a bit. I was dealing with pretty severe insomnia. I was sleeping about 3 hours a night and then trying to caffeinate my way throughout the whole rest of the day. Eventually, after I pretty much hit rock bottom, I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. In retrospect, I'd probably just call myself a 16-year-old human, but I really wasn't emotionally ready to handle what was going on in my life. Later, after I'd gotten my sleeping under control, I had my first seizure. I apparently have epilepsy, according to witnesses, who are probably reliable. Whenever I have a seizure, I have a few hours of permanent amnesia, so from my perspective, it's really more like I just ran a marathon and forgot. Though I will say having to lift your legs with your arms to get over the lip of the bathtub for the next week is not the most fun experience. High school wasn't all bad, though. I got a job at a restaurant where all of the waitstaff were classical and or musical theater singers and would sing stuff, and I would play the piano, and it was honestly one of the most fun gigs I've ever had. They even let me sing sometimes. Yay! When I went off to college, I was studying music initially, but I didn't really go to a lot of my classes. I spent a lot more time reading or on the computer or doing music. You've heard this before. This is getting repetitive. I was dealing with a fair bit of depression in college because I was pretty much a loner. At one point I watched the movie Groundhog Day, and that sort of turned my life around. The whole idea of, what if there's no point? What if there's no purpose? And then I watched Bill Murray encounter that very situation where nothing that he did had any consequence whatsoever, but he still found a reason to constantly try and improve himself and learn new things. I decided that's how I want to live my life, and it's been one of the most powerful influences on everything I've done. But this time I had switched my major to computer science, and I got a job with the web development department on campus, and this was amazing. I learned more in the first day there than I had learned in my 2 years of classes. They didn't all wear glasses, I just couldn't figure out a way to symbolize that they were all just as nerdy as I am, and I love them very, very much. I knew that a degree wasn't going to get me a job, so I took a week off of school and spent my last dime on a flight to a developer conference in San Francisco. I met a whole bunch of great people and tried to network as much as I could and make sure that I could get a great internship for my junior year summer. Right as I was about to sign an internship, I got a full-time job offer. It made far more money than the university's boasted graduate salary. They were willing to let me work remotely and work around my class schedule. I eventually dropped out of college and worked at that job during the day, and I got a job at night working at a dinner theater as an actor and pianist, which was awesome. That was going to be me talking to a skull like Hamlet or something, but I can't draw that. Unfortunately, I had another seizure, which meant that I couldn't drive again. Not being able to drive in the Midwest is kind of like not being able to walk in a city. I decided I wanted to move to New York. I wanted to be somewhere where suddenly not being able to drive wouldn't cripple my life. I called up my parents and asked if I could move back in for a few months and try and save up some money. And so, yes, it's a cliche, but for 6 months I was sleeping in my parents' basement. I finally got a job in New York, and I was incredibly thrilled to get there. Unfortunately, I discovered I didn't really enjoy the job, and I was having a really hard time meeting any new people. To try and fight this and give myself something to do, I started making YouTube videos with a friend from Wisconsin. And 6 months after I moved, I got an email from Mashable and leapt at that opportunity. It's the greatest job I've ever had. I started making videos on my main channel and got to do a video with AVBite. This kind of spitballed into meeting tons of people who walk around with cameras and think it's really hilarious to film everyone filming everyone filming everyone. And to be fair, they're right. YouTube has been an amazing experience for me, but honestly, it's not the YouTube part. It's the you part. And now, honestly, this is probably one of the most stressful times of my life, just in terms of being busy and crazy and blah. Those were supposed to be beads of sweat. But despite all that, I have truly never been happier. Oh my god, that is terrifying. Get rid of it. Erase it. Erase it. Erase it now. I was on the YT Talk forum recently, and someone asked, how would you summarize your life in 6 words? This is what I came up with.